Welcome to the Delmarva Almanac. Each week, we connect you to the best of Delmarva. Like other almanacs, our aim is to tell you a little bit about our past, our present, and events in the near future.
In June, the tiny little shoots of corn peek out from the barren spring ground. The farmers aboard their tractors lumber slowly from one field to the next, while people in their out-of-state automobiles wait impatiently for them to pull aside, petulant and pouty to be spending 12 more minutes on the blindingly beautiful two-lane country roads, dripping with new bright green leaves. Farming is in the blood here. Generation after generation work the land and grow the corn that their great-great-grandfathers did before them. Even if your family does not work the land, you are close to someone who does. We are such a tiny state that there is ever only 2 degrees of separation between any of us. That farmer on the tractor probably has about 150 mutual friends on Facebook with me, and I'll bet you anything he has our senator on speed dial as well. When I was an impatient New Yorker, I might have sped past him. Not now. My livelihood depends on his in the most immediate of ways. Corn has been here from the beginning. The Nanacoke Indians grew the very first crops of corn, beans, and squash. They were non-nomadic planters that harvested from the sea and lived off the land year-round. Women and children cared for the lush gardens of corn, beans, squash, pumpkins, sunflowers, and tobacco. Corn does not grow wild anywhere in the world, and opinions differ as to whether it was a spontaneous evolution or through human intervention. The Native Americans were the first to cultivate corn, and the early European settlers relied on the native corn as an essential dietary staple. Without the Nanacokes sharing their knowledge, the history of the European expansion would have had a very different historical trajectory. The corn of the Native Americans was an entirely different strain than what we now enjoy, but the Nanacoke used every part of the plant, from green kernels to dry kernels to stalks and husks. Flint corn or field corn that we use for feed or hominy, as well as the multicolored corn we see decorating the harvest table, is far closer to the original than the sweet corn we enjoy today. Thanks to a whole bunch of Quakers brought here by the promise of religious freedom, Delaware's commercial grain industry was born. Soft red wheat was the first major cash crop, and the revolution of flour milling from the automated grist mill by Oliver Evans made Delaware an agricultural heavyweight. Mills had not advanced technologically much since the Middle Ages, and by virtue of Evans' invention, mills were suddenly capable of being operated by only one person. Interestingly enough, the automated grist mill was one of the first patents granted in the United States, and that patent was signed by our new president, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson. Just another history nerd fact to thrill you. All fresh standing bodies of water in Delaware are actually man-made and were created to run these mills. If you have just joined us, you are listening to the Delmarva Almanac. I am Gretchen Hanson, and we are talking about corn and chicken, chicken and corn. The modern poultry industry has its origins with Cecil Steele from Ocean View. She was shipped 500 rather than her regular 50 peeps in Easter 1923, and she expanded her broiler business by using larger houses to raise her birds. Today, poultry production is the economic cornerstone of the entire Delmarva Peninsula, and Sussex County is the #1 county in the United States for poultry production. Poultry accounts for more than 70% of the Delaware's annual farm cash receipts. A substantial portion of the state's grain production, corn and soybeans, also directly supports the poultry industry. Poultry's economic impact cannot be overestimated when you examine Delaware. Not only has poultry become a focus of Eastern Shore culinary arts, immigration to the region has had a huge impact on exposure to spices, regional cuisines, and the intermarriage which occurs when native traditions are blended in new and unusual ways. Immigrants from Mexico, Central and South America all have come to this country to work in the poultry plants, and with immigrants come the grocery stores that cater to them, spices that are indigenous, and restaurants that serve regional cuisine which blend produce and proteins that are readily available with new techniques. With the agricultural immigrant also came back the original corn and the techniques of the Native Americans in the form of masa, which is a field corn that is dried and turned into hominy. The mature grain is soaked in slaked lime and ash in a process called nixtamalization. The process breaks down the glue-like components of the cellulose walls and allows the corn to be formed into dough. It frees the nutritionally rich niacin so that it can be easily absorbed into the digestive tract, as well as balances the amino acids, which allow the proteins to be more biologically available. Masa is the main ingredient for most Latin cuisine. Tortillas, gorditas, tamales, horachas, pupusas, all of these are based on masa. And with the agricultural workers came the new dishes and ingredients that they brought with them. Moles, enchiladas, ceviches, pozole. These are just some of the culinary gifts from the men and women that came to pluck the almighty bird. Breaking away from the traditional fried chicken houses and crab barns came chef pioneers like Matt Haley, Sidney Arts, Leo Medich. Organic farmers like Sue Ryan and Ted Wyckoff paved the way for the generations of newcomers like me to find an area verdant with culinary possibilities and the potential of growth in a direction that can only be imagined. It is the first sign of summer every year, the plowing of the fields that make way for the crops of corn, greeting you at every bend and long stretch of the road. Bright, shimmery, silver-green swords reach to the sky, growing varietals far different from 400 years ago. As high as your eye on the 4th of July, my children shout loudly as we wait behind each tractor. You can give it the barest seconds in a simmering pot, or slather it with Lewis Dairy Creamery butter Sussex style, as I did when I was a child, or grill maíz esquites with cumin, chili, queso contillo, and lime as I do now. Just get ready to take the first bite. It's delicious out there.
Well, that's all for this edition of the Delmarva Almanac. We'd like to thank our community partners, the Friends of Delmarva Public Radio, the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and underwriters EatDrinkBuyArt.com for their help in bringing this program to you, our audience. Our theme music was provided by Brightside Studio. This show has been a Moonshell production. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, may the rhythms and tides of Delmarva bring you good fortune.